reality, but we have to face it. There are instances which happen, and therefore I thought probably let me speak on this aspect. Women seafarers out at sea, leaving their families, their social networks, probably amidst a lot of male seafarers, it's itself a very daunting scenario. And God forbid there be some incident or some kind of unwelcome gestures which may make a lady seafarer uncomfortable, feel insecure, unsafe, then what would be the redressal mechanisms, or how is this to be approached? The IMO has designated personnel ashore, DPA, whose contact is on the board, accessible, seen everywhere, and any seafarer can reach out to the DPA. Women seafarers in such conditions may confide to those on board whom they are closest, whom they trust. Trust is a very big factor when the woman will feel comfortable to share her experiences. I shall now talk about shipping being international. The ships move around all over the world. So when a ship is within port or within the territorial waters of a country, the national laws of that port state will apply, irrespective of the flag of the ship. So if ship is in a particular port and an untoward incident happens, the port would have, if the incident is of a very grave nature, the port would certainly have the right to record the same and carry out the investigation, but that would depend on the severity of the situation. When the ships are sailing in international waters, the flag state is applicable, because when you are at high seas, the territory is of the flag state. Now, we know that many of our ships, or generally ships worldwide, are registered with flags of conveniences. Countries like Bahamas, Panama, Marshall Islands, and so on. Now, the laws of these countries may not be that stringent. So what really complicates the situation is that the ships are moving. You are at port, okay, the port jurisdiction, the port will take over depending on the severity, as I said. If the ship is at high seas, then it is the flag state. Now, these are combinations which are not smooth sailing, should I say, plus the crew nationality, they come from different nations. And even today, the concept of what is sexual harassment differs. It is not the same as X country or Y country or Z. There would be some differences. And the need is, of course, to harmonize and bring as much as par as is possible. The attempts are on the way, and now I shall take you through a few slides which will show the same. As I mentioned about the ships plying, the diverse crew, different aspects, how sexual harassment is viewed by different nations. A team of ladies uh, who I understand are with the World Maritime University, Laura Carballo Pinheiro and Momoko Kitaga, took out this paper in 2020, and they have canvassed their thoughts, findings. So what they say is, there has not been yet a dedicated, exclusive discussion on this. There have been many international conventions. Issues of seafarers, women seafarers have been discussed, but a dedicated, separate discussion on this topic has not been done. Not to say that these concerns have not been taken up, but an exclusive, separate platform on this issue. These are the reasons that they say why this needs a more in-depth approach. The enforcement of laws and policies in these matters is weak, in view of potentially different laws to which social aspects on board might be submitted. The traditional reluctance of maritime professionals to report any issues on board gets aggravated, and therefore zero tolerance policy has to be strongly asserted. How much that happens in real life situation is perhaps zero. I have researched on the internet. I did find some cases. There was a student, cadet you can say. This was in US of A, and for her internship she had to go on board a commercial vessel, and whilst her internship, the training out there, there was a very unfortunate incident that happened, because of which the sea-year experience which the would-be seafarers or the cadets had to undergo, that sea-year experience was cancelled. It is very much on the internet. Very, very unfortunately, some years ago, there was a woman seafarer who was very badly assaulted numerous times, and then her body was found floating on the sea. What the scenario today is, there is a lot more awareness, and this has got an impetus due to the Me Too movement that happened. The Me Too movement has also furthered this cause, and therefore these issues are in public domain, openly discussed, and the redressal mechanisms are in place. So therefore, to deny and say that nothing of this has happened won't be the right picture. It could be some far and few instances do happen, lesser to a greater extent. Now, this was a survey which was done in 2014, and the various organizations like the International Maritime Health Association, IMHA, International Seafarers Welfare Assistance Network, ISWAN, ITF, Seafarers Hospital Society, SHS, did the survey, and they found that 17% of the women reported sexual harassment as an issue. This particular survey was answered by women in supervisory capacities. There was a done of the pilots where the women were much at junior levels, and they reported nearly half of the participants, which is 50%. International Labour Organization introduced Maritime Labour Convention. Now, this is the Bill of Rights for seafarers. Irrespective of the gender, this is the Bill of Rights for seafarers because it took up everything. Minimum working and living standards in all aspects, including safety protection. This is the bill which India has ratified, and many nations in the world have ratified. A remarkable feature of this convention is that countries which are a signatory to this convention, will have a MLC representative, an authorized person at every port of the countries which are signatories, or at least at the major ports. So countries which are signatories have been mandated that you must have a MLC officer at the port. So any seafarer, they will not refuse a seafarer saying that no, you are not a signatory, but they can be very effective when it comes to those flying the flags of nation from the MLC convention. And fortunately, MLC convention has been ratified by a good number of nations. So the presence of a MLC officer at the port is a very comforting factor, that you at that port or one at that port can approach the concerned person. The government of India ratified this. It came into effect. It is in our domestic legislation. The Merchant Shipping Act was amended. This was included as the Maritime Labor Rules 2016. There are some notices which are to be read along with this. Chapter 6 deals with flag state responsibilities, and 26 of that deals with on-board complaint procedures. 1 to 8 are listed, but I'll mention just the one which I have highlighted. In all such cases, seafarers shall also have the right to file their complaints directly with the master or recruitment and placement service provider, because they have given a step-by-step that first you report to your head of the department. If he cannot resolve within so many days, then you approach the master. If not within so many days, then the ship owner. If not, it cascades upwards. But the important or the emphasis is, or any other legal entity that the seafarer may consider appropriate for the purpose. In all such cases, seafarers shall also have the right to file their complaints directly with the master or RPS, ship owner, or any other legal entity. That means that right to approach police or other authorities, legal authorities, is with the seafarer. Of course, the seafarer will, in those circumstances, probably would be in some trauma, but still the seafarer would probably in consultation or would take a call. Where is it that I draw the line? Where is it that I say that this is any reasonable person would, in his or her shoes, would take that call. A small incident like somebody sending you a rose on a WhatsApp is something, it's a nuisance. Somebody sending you some text, you could probably give a reply back. Somebody sends you a rose symbol on the WhatsApp, you just ignore. But something that is beyond the acceptable norms is, as any one of us would probably think, it's very easy to sit here in judgment or stand here in judgment and to say something for the other person, because the wearer of the shoe knows where exactly it pinches. However, certain incidents are not to be put under the carpet, and the more that it comes out and the more it is dealt with, it would probably be a better thing for the society at large. The onshore seafarer complaint handling procedures. Part 2 is the DG Shipping shall take necessary steps to safeguard the confidentiality of the seafarers making the complaint. Now that is also being provided for, and that is the DG Shipping to do so. There is a grievance redressal forum, which is as follows. Coming to our ashore scenario, many of the women seafarers do take up jobs at shore. In India, we have brought in the Sexual Harassment at Workplace, Sexual Harassment Against Women at Workplace Act 2013, and very briefly it is called the POSH Act. Any and every organization, institution, company with minimum 10 employees must have an internal complaints committee and so on. So if an untoward incident happens within the work premises ashore, then this is the act that could be used for redressal. With that, I wish all the women seafarers present here and anywhere in the world a happy, safe, sound seafaring. Thank you.